The day I signed my resignation letter from Silicon Dynamics was the same day my life changed completely. After 10 years of developing software for billionaires, I realized I had become just another number among so many lines of code. My bank account was full, but my soul was empty. While I cleaned my desk on the 47th floor, I looked down at San Francisco, a concrete jungle that no longer seduced me. All that urban chaos, endless meetings, and constant pressure for results had drained my life energy. That's when I came across an ad for land in Idaho, a secluded property surrounded by nature, away from the noise of data centers. Right there, I decided it was time to use my tech skills to create something truly meaningful. Little did I know that this decision would put me on a collision course with people who'd turn my search for peace into a fight for justice. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get access to more stories like this. After 3 months of searching, I found the perfect piece of land, 20 acres of untouched earth in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The spot was a dream, with a panoramic view of the mountains and a clear creek running through the property. I used my savings to buy it outright, so I wouldn't be burdened with any debt while starting my new life. With my tech background, I designed every detail of the house using a 3D software. I wanted to create something unique, a home that blended into nature without harming it. The plan included state-of-the-art solar panels, a rainwater harvesting system, and a small wind energy field. Everything was connected to a smart system that I programmed myself. The construction took 8 months. I went with sustainable materials, certified wood, special glass that regulates temperature, and recycled concrete. I set up an automation system that controlled everything, from watering my garden to managing energy consumption, all from my phone. The result went beyond my expectations. The house naturally blended among the trees, its modern lines harmonizing with the wild landscape. From my home office, I could work on freelance projects while watching deer grazing peacefully. I finally found my place, a refuge where technology and nature coexisted in perfect balance. The nights were quiet, except for the sound of the creek and the wind in the trees. For the first time in years, I truly felt at peace. But that quiet was about to be shattered in ways I never could have imagined. Everything changed one October morning when I got an email that, at first glance, looked harmless. The sender identified herself as Patricia Anderson, president of the Pine Valley Homeowners Association. The message said that my property was under their jurisdiction and that I owed back taxes of $25,000. At first, I thought it was a mistake. When I bought the land, all the documents showed that the area was independent, with no connection to any association. I answered politely, attaching the deeds and relevant paperwork. The reply came the next day in a threatening tone, claiming that newly discovered documents proved that my land had belonged to the HOA's territory since 1985. A week later, I received a digital summons. The document looked official, but something was off. Using my tech skills, I checked the PDF metadata and discovered that it had been created only 3 days earlier, even though they claimed it was from 1985. I saved that info, feeling it might come in handy later. The messages started coming in daily, each one more aggressive than the last. They demanded that I make my too-modern house conform to the association's aesthetic standards. They wanted me to remove the solar panels, saying they ruined the panoramic view. They requested changes to the architecture to follow a more traditional style. One day, I found a thick envelope in my mailbox containing a complete dossier on me. Details about my life in San Francisco, bank statements, even photos of me in Silicon Dynamics meetings. It was a clear attempt at intimidation. The obvious message was, they had resources and wouldn't hesitate to use them. The last straw was when they tried to put a lien on my property using forged documents. I realized I was dealing with a sophisticated organization that employed digital methods to defraud property owners. It wasn't just about fees or aesthetic rules. It was a systematic extortion operation. At that moment, I knew I had to fight back, not just for me, but for everyone who might fall victim to this scheme. It was time to use my tech knowledge for a bigger purpose than building apps. It was time to seek justice. The pressure kept mounting every day. Patricia Anderson ramped up her campaign, sending inspectors to photograph my property daily. I installed security cameras and noticed them showing up even at night, always in black SUVs with tinted windows. I started digging deeper. I created an algorithm to scour public records and found a disturbing pattern. In the last 5 years, 12 property owners had been forced to sell their land for peanuts after facing lawsuits from the HOA. All the properties were later resold at much higher prices to shell companies. Using my contacts back in San Francisco, I hired a private investigator. He discovered that Patricia had ties with a luxury developer and was planning to turn the whole area into an exclusive resort. My property was key because of its creek and prime view. Tactics became more aggressive. My security system detected attempts to hack into my home server. They were sophisticated attacks, clearly carried out by professionals. I managed to track their origin, a digital security company hired by the HOA. One night, my power system was mysteriously shut down. The backups kicked in immediately, but the message was clear. They could affect my life at any moment. I documented everything meticulously, creating encrypted copies on secure servers. The threats started affecting my freelance work. Clients began receiving anonymous emails defaming me, calling me unapproachable. My online reputation was systematically attacked. Patricia was using her entire network to isolate me. On a rainy afternoon, I got an unexpected visit. It was Sarah Chen, a former resident who had lost her property to the HOA the previous year. Trembling, she told me how she was forced to sell her land after a series of inexplicable accidents. Her story confirmed my suspicions. This was bigger than just a real estate dispute. Matters came to a head when my water purification system showed signs of tampering. Analysis revealed traces of substances that shouldn't have been there. I couldn't prove it, but the message was chillingly clear. That night, sitting in my office and watching my security cameras, I realized I needed to change my strategy. It wasn't enough just to defend myself. It was time to strike back. I began planning how to use my tech expertise to expose the entire operation. I created a detailed digital map connecting every event: forced sales, forged documents, shell companies, cyber attacks. Every point linked back to Patricia Anderson and her network of collaborators. The pattern was undeniable. During my investigation, I discovered something even more sinister. The HOA was using artificial intelligence software to identify target properties, analyzing the financial data of owners to pinpoint the most vulnerable. They were using advanced tech to refine their harassment tactics. I realized I needed specialized legal help, someone who understood not only property law, but also cybercrime. I needed someone who wouldn't be intimidated by Patricia's power and influence. That's when I decided to reach out to Michael Thompson, a lawyer known for taking on complex cases involving technology and real estate fraud. My first meeting with Michael Thompson took place in his office in Boise. When I showed him my digital evidence, his eyes lit up. "This is a lot bigger than you think," he said, revealing that he'd been investigating Patricia Anderson for 2 years, but never had enough proof to sue her. Michael introduced me to Emma Rodriguez, a cybercrime expert who worked with him. She was especially interested in the attack patterns on my server and the attempts to manipulate my home systems. "They left digital traces everywhere," she explained. "We just need to connect the dots." We formed a discreet team. Sarah Chen, the former resident, put us in touch with other property owners who'd been victims of the HOA. Each one had a piece of the puzzle. One of them, James Morrison, was a former clerk at the local registry office and had information on how the documents were being forged. During our investigations, we met David Parker, a former executive from the developer tied to Patricia. He had been fired after questioning shady practices and was willing to testify. His account exposed an elaborate scheme of money laundering through forced property transactions. Emma built a secure communication system for our team, using advanced encryption. We needed to stay one step ahead of Patricia, who surely had informants in many sectors. Every discovery was carefully documented and stored on multiple secure servers. Michael brought in Robert Chang, a digital forensics expert, to analyze the fraudulent HOA documents. He found crucial inconsistencies in the electronic signatures and metadata, proving that supposedly old documents had been fabricated recently. Our investigation also revealed connections with local politicians. The HOA had made significant donations to political campaigns in exchange for turning a blind eye to their activities. Jessica Martinez, an investigative journalist from the Idaho Sentinel, began gathering evidence for an explosive exposé. The turning point came when we gained access to deleted emails from the HOA's server, thanks to an old backup provided by a remorseful ex-employee. The messages uncovered explicit conversations about intimidation tactics and plans for the luxury resort. In a tense meeting at my house, Michael laid out our legal strategy. "We're not just going to defend ourselves," he explained. "We're going to expose the whole scheme." The plan was to file a class action lawsuit representing all the HOA victims, while simultaneously handing over the evidence of fraud to federal authorities. Emma bolstered everyone's digital security. She installed advanced monitoring systems and trained the team in security protocols. "They're going to try to retaliate," she warned, "but we'll be ready." As our case grew stronger, more people joined our cause. Ex-HOA employees, intimidated residents, and even a dissident city councilor started giving us information. Patricia had made a lot of enemies over the years. Michael spent sleepless nights preparing the legal documents while Emma tracked every digital move made by the HOA. Our team grew along with our confidence. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt we had a real shot at victory. The battle was just beginning, but now I wasn't alone. We had truth, technology, and determination on our side. It was time to take Patricia Anderson and her corrupt organization to court. The confrontation kicked off with a coordinated legal blitz. On a Monday, exactly at 9 a.m., Michael simultaneously filed the class action suit and a federal complaint against Patricia Anderson and her criminal network. At the same time, Jessica published her investigative piece in the Idaho Sentinel, exposing the entire scam. The reaction was immediate. The HOA office was swarmed by reporters, while on social media, the case went viral. Patricia tried to fight back with a press conference, but every accusation she made was quickly refuted by the evidence we had gathered. Emma detected a massive cyber attack attempt on our systems. A professional team tried to hack not only my servers, but also the backups we had of our evidence. Thanks to our preparation, we not only repelled the attack, but also traced its origin, adding more proof to our case. David Parker, the former executive, gave a devastating testimony to the FBI. He detailed how the organization used artificial intelligence to identify vulnerable targets, and how the money from forced sales was laundered through a network of offshore companies. His testimony triggered a federal investigation into money laundering. Sarah Chen organized a support group for the victims that became crucial. Dozens of former property owners began sharing their stories, creating a powerful narrative that the media couldn't ignore. Every account strengthened our case and exposed the cruelty of Patricia's scheme. Pressure mounted when Robert Chang presented his forensic analysis of the documents. Using cutting-edge technology, he proved that hundreds of signatures had been digitally forged. The local registry was forced to launch an internal investigation, and several employees started cooperating with the authorities. Patricia tried one last desperate move. Through her political contacts, she managed to get a temporary court order to freeze our investigation. Michael was ready. He filed an appeal with such solid evidence that the judge not only lifted the order, but also launched an investigation into the involved politicians. Emma discovered attempts to destroy evidence on the HOA servers. We quickly obtained a court order for digital data preservation. When forensic technicians accessed the association's computers, they found a real treasure trove of evidence that Patricia hadn't managed to erase in time. The decisive moment came when a whistleblower from inside the developer leaked compromising emails. The messages revealed a detailed plan to turn the entire region into an exclusive resort, without any regard for the environmental or social impact. Public opinion, which was already on our side, grew even more outraged. Our legal strategy proved effective. The federal judge accepted all the digital evidence, setting an important precedent for future cases involving cybercrimes and real estate disputes. Patricia's defense started to crumble when her own lawyers asked to drop the case. James Morrison, the former registry clerk, provided the last piece of the puzzle. Original documents proving that the HOA never had legal jurisdiction over our area. The whole foundation of Patricia's power was an elaborate fraud. The community came together in an inspiring way. Neighbors who had previously been afraid to speak out were now organizing peaceful protests in front of the HOA office. Our fight wasn't just legal anymore. It had turned into a movement for justice and transparency. The climax began to take shape on a cold December morning. The FBI, armed with federal warrants, simultaneously raided the HOA office, Patricia's home, and several companies linked to the scheme. Agents seized servers, documents, and electronic devices that backed up all our allegations. Patricia Anderson tried to flee the country, but Emma had already alerted the authorities to that possibility. Our monitoring system spotted her attempt to buy tickets using a fake identity. She was detained at Seattle Airport, trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands with a suitcase containing $2 million in cash. Patricia's arrest set off a domino effect. Her top collaborators, fearing long prison sentences, began cooperating in plea deals. The criminal scheme was exposed in its entirety. More than 50 properties had been illegally taken over for a decade, causing estimated losses of $100 million. Michael Thompson scored a historic win in the class action suit. The judge not only nullified all the fraudulent transactions, but also ordered the developer to pay astronomical compensation to the victims. Sarah Chen and other ex-owners finally had a chance to get their land back. The impact of the case went beyond our region. State lawmakers proposed the Idaho Digital Evidence Act, a law specifically designed to tackle real estate fraud using advanced technology. Emma was called to testify in the state Senate, sharing her experience in fighting cybercrimes. Robert Chang published a detailed technical article on the digital forgery methods used by the HOA, which became a reference for forensic investigators across the country. His analysis helped establish new security protocols for electronic documents and property registries. The community started a healing process. We set up a legal assistance fund to help other victims of fraudulent HOAs. Jessica Martinez won an investigative journalism award for her coverage of the case, which inspired similar reports in other parts of the country. David Parker, the ex-executive who aided us, founded a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting transparency in homeowners associations. His inside knowledge of the scam helped create guidelines to prevent similar abuses. On my property, I installed an open-source environmental monitoring system, making the data available to researchers and environmentalists. The creek that Patricia wanted to exploit commercially is now part of a preservation project involving the entire community. James Morrison went back to work at the registry office, this time leading a task force to modernize the property registration system using blockchain. His experience with the forged documents made him a passionate advocate for digital transparency. The most rewarding part was seeing former victims get their properties back. Sarah Chen not only reclaimed her land, but also helped establish a mutual support network among residents. Gradually, the region returned to what it was always meant to be, a united and supportive community. As for me, I continue to live in my sustainable home, but now with a new mission. I use my tech skills not only for personal projects, but to help other communities protect themselves from similar frauds. The battle against Patricia Anderson taught me that when used ethically, technology can be a powerful tool for social justice. A year after the fall of Patricia Anderson, our community transformed into a model of transparent and collaborative governance. The case became a required study in law schools and tech programs, showing how the union of legal and digital expertise can fight systemic corruption. Emma Rodriguez established a digital security research center focused on community protection. We developed open-source tools that allow other communities to monitor and document suspicious activities in their homeowners associations. The project has already helped dismantle similar schemes in 3 other states. Michael Thompson expanded his office, creating a division specialized in tech-related real estate crimes. His team now trains lawyers nationwide, sharing the lessons we learned in our fight. The legal precedent we set continues to protect landowners from predatory practices. The creek that Patricia wanted to exploit has become the heart of a conservation project. Working with local biologists, we implemented a monitoring system that tracks the ecosystem's health in real time. The data is shared with universities and environmental organizations, contributing to research on water resource preservation. Sarah Chen turned her experience into a powerful book, Code of Justice: How Technology Saved Our Community. Her story inspires people nationwide to stand firm against corporate bullying. The book became a bestseller and is being adapted into a documentary. As for Patricia Anderson, she was sentenced to 25 years in prison for multiple crimes, including electronic fraud and money laundering. Her case serves as a warning to anyone thinking of using technology for criminal purposes. On my mountain property, I maintain a monitoring station that backs up all the community's data. The system I built to defend myself now protects hundreds of property owners. It's gratifying to see something born out of the need for survival turn into a tool for community empowerment. The most valuable lesson I learned is that technology, when combined with determination and community unity, can be a powerful force for social change. Our story isn't just about beating a corrupt system. It's about redefining how communities can organize and protect themselves in the digital age. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get access to more stories like this. 5 years have passed since the fall of the corrupt HOA. Our case sparked a quiet revolution in the way rural communities organize themselves. The model we developed for transparent and participatory governance was adopted by dozens of communities across the country. My mountain home has become an informal center for social innovation. We regularly welcome visitors from other communities who want to learn how to implement similar protection and monitoring systems. The lab I built for my personal defense now serves as an incubator for new community tech solutions. Emma Rodriguez expanded her research center, which now offers scholarships to young programmers interested in social technology. Some of the systems we developed during our fight have been improved and are distributed free of charge to vulnerable communities. Digital security has ceased to be a privilege and has become a community right. But the deepest impact was on people's mindset. The fear that Patricia Anderson once used as a weapon was replaced by a sense of collective empowerment. Residents learned that technology doesn't have to be a tool for oppression. It can be an instrument of liberation in the right hands. Sarah Chen established a national support network for communities facing similar situations. Her work has already helped more than 50 groups resist predatory land grabs. Her book is being translated into several languages, spreading our story beyond American borders. The creek, which they tried so hard to exploit, is now part of a community-managed environmental reserve. The data we collected about the local ecosystem has helped researchers better understand the impact of climate change on mountainous microenvironments. Personally, I found a new purpose. In addition to my tech work, I now devote part of my time to advising other communities in their fight for justice. Every new victory against corruption reaffirms that our battle with Patricia Anderson was just the beginning of something much bigger. The technology I developed to defend myself ended up creating something far more valuable: a resilient and united community, capable of resisting any attempt at oppression. Our story continues to inspire others to fight for their rights, proving that even the smallest place can be the stage for the biggest transformations. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get access to more stories like this.